So it's that time again, new knife day. 5 more models to check out, including 2 from a brand that I've never tried before. So some budget bangers and also some more premium options. Let's go ahead and get started. When you review a lot of knives, it's nice to review something different every once in a while. And the 401L, which is this one, or the 401LC, which is the white one over here, they're a little bit different. Not tons, but enough to make them stand out. Specifically this one. We'll get to it in a second. So the first model we have, which is the LC, comes with sort of this cream color. I actually don't dislike it, if I'm being honest. And you could also just take this apart and dye that scale if you wanted it to be a specific color that better suits your preference. You have a back flipper here, but the way it's positioned is very unique. It's also tucked in such a way that it kind of disappears in the closed position. And as you open it, you'll notice that the flipper tab becomes completely flush, engaging with the lock bar itself. You have good lock bar access, and the bearings on it, you can make it smoother, you can make it drop shut. I don't recommend it because as you're coming here, you can see where you're putting your thumb, it's a little bit lower, and because of that, you might run into a slight issue, especially because this is one of the sharpest budget knives I've ever seen out of the box. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about. Like, okay, there's no rips there. That literally is just me changing the direction. It's biting in that much. And I probably should use thinner paper to demonstrate this, but it's just absolutely wild how sharp they made this thing out of the box. So we have 10 CR15 MOV. I believe that's similar to VG10 in steel composition. Also, something that SRM does, what I really like, is the no tool, removable clip. You could flip it around, make it left-hand capable, and if you don't want it, you could just do it without it. So let's say you wanted to do a lot of woodworking, and that clip was getting kind of annoying in your palm. You could just take it out, which is a really, really nice feature. You still have a lanyard spot, so if you wanted to do that, you could use that instead. So let me make sure I got the right orientation. Push it in, it locks, stays really, really secure, believe it or not. And it's really deep carry. I also like the fact that there are only 2 screws on the entire knife. The only difference between, okay, there's 2 differences. First is the shape of the handles. This has sort of a very interesting, like angled G10 handle scale. And the second part that's different is the grind. This is actually a Scandi ground folder. We never see Scandi ground folders, especially ones that are this slim. Usually they're much more bulky. I keep thinking about the Fin Hawk or Fin Wolf. I think it's Fin Wolf from Cold Steel. But this one feels a little bit more elegant, a little bit lighter, a little bit easier to carry. And I'm curious to see how this feels in the long term after carving something, because it's a straight handle. It's really neutral in grip. This might be a decent backup option for someone who likes to be in the outdoors, or maybe they're going on a very short hike and wants to play around. This could be the option for you. I'm curious to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Would you pick up either one of these 2? And if you prefer one over the other, let me know why. Okay, let's talk about what caught my attention immediately when I saw this knife. The price and the materials. So this has G10 handle scales, full steel liners, crossbar lock, and 14C28N, and the current price for this specific coloration is $20. So this is a $20 knife. It kind of reminds me of the Mini Praxis from We Knife Co. But, you know, it's pretty impressive, I gotta say. I'm not keen on the fact that it is so heavy, because it does feel pretty heavy. It has very, very thick handles. But if you like that, and maybe you do, this could be a really good budget option. I'm also a big fan of the fact that the blade goes as close to the handle as possible, so you really get the full length. You don't have to utilize, only this much because there's a forward finger choil. And this is actually a knife that's just ever so big enough that I can get a full 4-finger grip on it. It's a little bit snug, but it is possible. The action is surprisingly good on bearings, and you can still flick it in and out. So nicely done. It also is something I do like, but maybe you won't. The crossbar sticks out pretty far from the handle frame. It makes it easier to grab, but it's also might be annoyance to others. It actually makes it quite wide now that I look at it. Oof. So that's interesting. Not as big of a deal as I might have thought initially, but still, on Amazon, there's not much you can buy that's decent under 20. A lot of those things that you buy, they're either lying about the knife blade steel or they're not part of something that you could trust. This is pretty impressive from someone who actually, or in collaboration with someone who has something to lose, so they probably aren't doing anything weird about it. They're just taking a smaller cut of the pie. And 14C28N, which is an imported steel from Sweden in a Chinese-made knife that has a reversible pocket clip, crossbar lock on bearings at this size, well, that's quite impressive, I have to say. A couple things I didn't mention on that first knife is the G10 handle texture. This is really nice and aggressive, and I like that a lot. I'm a huge fan of aggressive handle texture for cheap knives that you might really use, get your hands grimy, dirty, sweaty, you name it. You don't want to be slipping around on a knife. So appreciate it. Once again, just like with the smaller variation, you have crossbar studs that stick out quite substantially on this knife. It's enough that I really notice it, because usually that's not the case with crossbars. They've gone a little bit further than normal. Now, I actually think that there will be people out there that appreciate this feature because they might find themselves slipping off of the normal ones, or they really want to make sure they have a proper grip. And this is a thing. The action is very, very good. Still drop shut on bearings. It does still feel pretty heavy, but it's not as noticeable on this model because I kind of expect it with larger knives. The thing is, as you can see on the inside, we do not have any weight savings. There are not any cutouts or anything like that to reduce the weight of the steel liners, which are all the way from one side to the other. But that makes it more rigid. Like, there is no flex whatsoever in this knife. So for a $34 knife in 14C28N with a crossbar lock, reversible pocket clips, G10 handle scales, this is way on the lower end of the price scheme. In fact, these used to be even cheaper when they first came out as a promotional thing. This is a collab between the YouTube channel 704 Tactical, and I'm not actually sure who is the individual that's OEMing for it, but I like what he's doing. I like that there's nothing written on it except the steel and the pivot, which clearly indicates who is responsible for it. Yeah, not much more to say. $34, 14C28N. For everyone talking about how expensive things are getting, there seems to also be some really nice gems in the budget market, and this certainly appears to be one of those. Now we're going to end on something a little bit more premium. I have already tried the titanium variation of the Psyop, and it was larger than this, and it, for some reason, the proportions never quite jived with me. It just wasn't right. This is every bit of what I was hoping it would have been. The micarta inlay is probably some of my favorite materials that they are using. I love this type of micarta. I love wire clips. I find them incredibly comfortable. I like the fact that they integrated aluminum as a cost-saving measure, but didn't make it look ugly. It looks really, really, really nice. And they used S35VN, which is a steel I really, really enjoy, with a top liner lock, or a button actuated compression lock is more accurate. Fantastic action, really, really comfortable in hand. This is beautiful. This is really, really, really nice. I gotta say, I like this one quite a bit. It kind of has a bit more of a leading edge, so you can get your fingers out of the way when you're doing draw cuts. It looks really nice. It's a good combination of materials. It's not as expensive as the as the titanium variation, so you still get great performance with a less, higher value. Whew. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this one. Let me also check the sharpness on this one. This one's pretty damn sharp as well. Let's see how we're doing here. Not as sharp as the SRM, but that's easy to fix. I think it has less to do... Well, no, this is actually pretty thin behind the edge. Yeah, it might just be a different angle. The other one might be just a steeper angle, but very nice. Very nice knife from Vosteed. I have to say, I like it quite a bit. And if I'm going to keep a Psyop in the collection, this is the one. It just feels right. And the other thing that I have noticed they've started to do is when it's in a locked position, they have kind of moved the scales out so that it protects that button, and you have to really mean to accidentally disengage it. Like, I just don't think you can just, like, even doing that, nothing is moving whatsoever, and I'm pushing down. There's enough guarding that button that you don't really have to worry. That is awesome. Yeah. Whew. Very, very nice job done by Vosteed. So that's pretty much it for today. I think between everything else, I like these two knives. I think that these two are the ones that are most interesting. This is just a damn good knife at a good value, but this one is just plain different. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Is this something you might want to consider? Or is a Scandi grind just a weird thing to have on a pocket knife? Let me know. As always, thank you for your time, and we'll talk again soon.